Hello, and welcome to Own Your Retirement. My name is Albert Lalonde from Kaizen Financial Incorporated. If you'd like more information about what you hear during our show today, give us a call at 586-752-7008 or visit us online at www.kaizenfinancialinc.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen. And while at my website, click on my podcast page to check out our past shows and to subscribe to our program on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon Music. All right. Today, we're going to be talking about something that sounds like a good problem to have, a windfall. Maybe it's an inheritance. Maybe it's a bigger bonus than expected, or a settlement, or even a lucky night at the tables. Whatever the source, a sudden influx of cash is exciting, but it's also something that must be handled carefully. So during the show, we'll be highlighting a U.S. News and World Report article with the headline, 9 Ways to Spend a Windfall Wisely. But before we go any further, let me introduce my co-host, Tony Shore, whose appearance on this show always feels like a windfall for me. Hey, Tony, how we doing, buddy?
I don't know about that. I'm doing good. Yeah, it's great. I love this time of year. Although the summer has flown by, it seems like
Yes,
fall is right around the corner now. Although
yes.
I will say fall is my favorite season.
It
I
is as
enjoy,
mine,
yeah,
yes.
I enjoy fall more than summer even. But so I guess I don't mind getting there quickly. But the sooner we get to fall, though, Albert, that means the sooner we get to winter, which I don't like. So. Uh,
Right.
right. How have you
Yes.
been? You've been busy the way
I
it
have
sounds.
been busy. Things
Yeah,
have been decent, good. Same thing, just winding down for the summer. Love
yeah,
the cooler temperatures, but still summer temperatures.
yeah,
So, very good stuff. Very good
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Well, I think that I imagine most people out there, Albert, assume they just know what to do if a big check landed in their lap or, inheritance. They say
Right.
they call it the great wealth transfer. All the
Yes.
baby boomers leaving all the money to Gen X now.
Yeah.
It's the greatest wealth transfer in history. Plus, we might have some lottery winners out there. That's less likely,
Yeah.
but
Yes. Well, you would hope so, but instinct doesn't always serve people well here. You know that.
yeah.
Always, people are always in that spend mode when they're winning, getting a windfall, let's say.
Well, right. I mean, if a windfall showed up for me tomorrow, the question is, where should I go first? Where should my
Yeah.
head go?
No,
Right?
that's a great question to be asking yourself right from the get-go. And
Yeah.
honestly, the first step isn't financial at all. It's emotional.
Mm.
You might think you feel nothing but thrilled and let's say a lot of money fell into your lap, but negative emotions can actually creep in too.
Really? I mean,
Mhm.
negative emotions over getting money?
Well, interestingly enough, it's not about the money itself, Tony. The first thing worth paying attention to is how you're feeling about it. People assume a windfall only brings good feelings, but that isn't always true.
Okay. What kind of bad feelings could come from getting money?
Okay, so more than most people would expect. In fact, in my own experience, financial services professionals who work with clients through this kind of change often notice something interesting, which is that people who've had a tight budget for years sometimes find that a sudden windfall brings on more anxiety than relief. There's a fear of getting it wrong, and that fear can spiral.
Hmm. It kind of surprises me. I guess I've never thought about that angle.
Well, I mean, think about it. Trouble sleeping, feeling anxious, or maybe even guilty, or just feeling like you don't belong in this new financial reality can all be signs of what the article calls sudden wealth syndrome. And it describes the emotional strain that can follow an unexpected financial windfall.
Well, what does that strain actually lead people to do then?
Well, there are a few things that I generally recommend to avoid. First is splurging on things that lose value the second you buy them. Next is handing out money to family and friends far beyond what's sustainable. And then finally, there's chasing risky investments just to feel like the money's doing something.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's that's another key right there. So how does somebody keep this from happening?
Well, you start by being honest with yourself about your headspace. And what I mean by that, if you're spinning, it's fair to put the big financial calls on hold and talk to someone beyond your financial service professional, like let's say a counselor or a therapist, before touching the money.
Mm. So, is there a way to know that what you're feeling is just normal excitement or something more serious?
Yes, in fact, the test is whether it's clouding your judgment. Feeling a little nervous, well, that's normal, but losing sleep, feeling weighed down by guilt, or even making moves just to quiet the anxiety, well, that's a different story. And that's the point where outside support may help.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's good to know. What's the next thing somebody should be thinking about here when it
Well,
comes to a windfall?
there's actually one more piece worth mentioning on the emotional side before moving forward. It's completely normal for the excitement to fade in and out over the first few weeks. That doesn't mean something's wrong. It just means the adjustment takes time, the same way any major life changes does for you.
Yeah. Well, and that's honestly reassuring, Albert. I think that's good. Now, let's go on to the next thing that people need to be aware of here.
Yeah, holding off on the big ticket spending. That's usually what
Uh,
most people
I
jump into,
Yeah,
right?
I can't go out and buy a sports a Lambo or a
I mean, you
Ferrari.
can, but just hold off.
Yeah,
Wait, you know.
yeah.
In fact, there was this an Empower survey. What would Americans do with the windfall was the question from June of this year, which is highlighted in the article. And that found that 31% of Americans who received or expected a windfall said they'd spend some of it on things like travel or personal indulgences. And then 12% said they'd go straight for a major purchase like a car. Meanwhile, 65% respondents said they'd save or invest some of the money, and 52% reported some of their windfall would be earmarked for paying off debt. 52%.
Yikes. That's crazy.
Mhm.
It sounds like the fun part of getting a windfall, though.
Yeah, I mean, it can be eventually for sure. All
Sure.
right. But the smarter move is stepping back, looking at the whole financial picture before any of that spending happens. Write down the dream purchases, the sports car, the trip overseas, whatever it is, and just let that list sit for a minute.
Yeah, yeah, give it time. I do that with major purchases anyway,
Hmm.
regardless of a windfall. If I see something that's, say $100 or more, and I'm like, "Oh, man, that would be great to have." I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna give it 3 days, and if in 3 days I still really want it, I'll come back and get it." And typically, I never go back and get it. If you set a waiting period, right?
Yeah.
It's not off the table forever. It's just not a right away kind of thing. You don't
Yeah.
wanna impulsively
I
do
mean, yeah,
things.
what you do, I think, is good for all those type of decision. I think that's a good way to put it. And the article explains that a year, or at least at a minimum 6 months, tends to be the window people recommend for letting the initial excitement settle before making those bigger purchases. And it's worth revisiting that list every so often. Some things stay just as appealing, and then others lose their shine once the initial rush wears off, like you were saying in your method.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that's really good. So, okay, somebody's holding off on spending and sitting with their emotions. What do they do with the news itself? Like, how should we handle? Okay, I'm getting
Yes.
a windfall. Do we talk about it or?
Right. Well, that's our third point in this article, and it's about being selective with who you tell. There's a strong pull to tell everyone the second it happens, but keeping quiet, at least early on, tends to serve people better. This isn't the moment for a social media post or a group text to the extended family, okay?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. People do that all the time, though.
Oh my gosh, they do. And it
Yeah.
can backfire. In fact, the
Yeah.
article also considers a 2026 survey from Vegas Insider that found that more than 4 in 10 US adults said they'd keep a lottery win entirely under wraps, and close to half said that they'd only tell a small handful of people. So broadcasting the news too widely can invite requests for money from people you barely know, or even attract advisors with less than honest intentions.
Mm. Well, then who actually makes the cut?
Well, usually the first person is your spouse or partner, okay?
Yeah.
Then a
Should be.
small
Better be.
circle of right, small circle of close friends, and whichever professionals are helping managing your money and affairs. And a simple gut check is that if you wouldn't have handed someone cash before the windfall, that perspective probably shouldn't shift just because you have more of it now.
Yeah. I mean, we all fantasize about what if I won the lottery? I don't even play the lotto, so I can't
Right.
win, but or what
Right.
if I got a big windfall? What if some great lost aunt left me a bunch of money? Um, I wouldn't tell I'm only telling 2 people,
Right.
Albert. I'm
Yep.
telling my wife
Hmm.
and my trusted financial advisor.
There you
Those are the
go.
only 2 people I'm telling.
Yep.
My kids can wait. That'll be spelled out in the trust, and I will have a conversation with them, my adult
Sure.
children, eventually. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but I'll change you change the wills and the accounts and everything right away,
Of
but you
course.
do that through your financial professional and the attorney and
Of course.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So, what comes next?
Well, bringing in professional help, like you said.
Yeah.
That same Empower survey that they did found only 1 in 5 Americans said they'd actually consult a financial service professional after receiving a windfall. That's crazy. That's a gap that can get expensive fast for anyone who isn't already well versed in investing and money management.
Yeah. Well, I'd bet a lot of people just figure they'll learn as they go, maybe, and that's not the best thing because 'cause they're gonna make
No,
costly
some
mistakes.
try, and getting truly comfortable with this stuff can take actually a long time, sometimes longer than people expect. In the meantime, working with someone experienced tends to pay for itself. So, between the tax rules and the sheer number of financial decisions involved, a second set of eyes can actually help prevent expensive missteps.
Yeah, and this is really critical. So what should people be looking for in that kind of financial professional?
Someone who looks at the whole picture, not just
Yeah.
one piece of it. And in many cases, it may be beneficial to have a team that consists of financial service professional, a tax professional, and an attorney. Tax strategy, investment choices, insurance coverage, and estate planning should all be part of that conversation and not just handled in isolation.
Yeah, that makes sense. What's next?
Well, tackling high interest debt. No matter how large the windfall is, it's hard to call yourself financially free while carrying debt. Accordingly, credit cards, personal loans, and student loans usually deserve first attention.
Yeah. I mean, paying off debt isn't exactly the exciting part of getting a windfall, but it is a bonus that you get that debt cleared
It
up, right?
is. And yes, it's usually not no, but it does tend to be the wisest move available.
Yeah.
Clearing that debt means the interest charges and the monthly bills disappear right along with it, which lifts a weight a lot of people have been carrying for a long time.
Yeah, now, but does that go for every type of debt, though? What about a mortgage?
Well, that's where it can get more of a nuance, let's say. Plenty of financial service professionals would tell you not to rush into paying off a mortgage, especially a low one, since money invested elsewhere could reasonably outgrow what that mortgage is costing in interest.
Yeah, use the bank's money.
Mhm.
What about a car loan?
Similar idea. Paying off a car can feel great emotionally, but there's a pattern where people who do that ends up shopping for a new car sooner than they would have otherwise. So until there's real clarity on the bigger plan for the money, it might be worth waiting on that one as well.
Yeah. And that means the message isn't necessarily to wipe out every debt immediately.
You got it. In fact, debts that's expensive and offers nothing in return, like credit cards, well, that deserves quick attention. Debt that's cheap and long term, like a mortgage, it's worth the real conversation with an advisor before assuming it has to go.
Yeah. Well, if people are looking, I'm not going to name names, Albert Lalonde, but I know a guy. So how can people get a hold of you to get a plan in place?
Folks, if anything from today's conversation has you curious or even concerned, give us a call, 586-752-7008, or visit us online at www.kaizenfinancialinc.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen, and set up your complimentary consultation. We'd welcome the chance to look at your full situation with you.
Yeah. All right. Got it. So what's next on the list?
Beefing up your emergency fund, Tony. That's something
Mm,
people always forget to do.
yep.
Cash reserve for the unexpected is one of the most valuable things someone can have, especially in retirement. And without it, people often end up leaning on credit cards again or loans when life throws a curveball.
Yeah. Well, and a windfall is a perfect opportunity to do that, to build up the emergency fund.
Exactly. In fact, if that cushion doesn't already exist, putting some of the windfall towards starting one is a smart move. The right amount really comes down to someone's monthly costs and how much financial peace of mind they're seeking.
Yeah, that's right. So, how can somebody position themselves to better hit their target number, Albert?
Yeah. You know what? Add up the essentials: housing, transportation, groceries, utilities, medical costs, and then decide how many months of that coverage would you help you to sleep at night. So most people land somewhere between 3 and 6 months of expenses. And that number tends to climb the more people are depending on that income.
All right. So, what's the next piece of managing a windfall?
Well, think further down the road. One of the smartest things you can do with the windfall is put it to work through investing. Now, whether
Mhm.
that's toward a house, a kid's education, or catching up on retirement savings that fell behind.
And does the size of the windfall really change this approach?
It can. In fact, a few $1,000s is nice, but it's not usually enough to change someone's financial trajectory, let's say, in a big way. But get into the range of tens of thousands or more, well, though, that could generally shift someone's lifestyle, maybe even move up the retirement timeline. And if it's managed well, it could happen.
Yeah. So, do you have a real world example of that kind of growth?
Sure. So let's say for illustrative purposes only, picture a 30-year-old who makes a one time lump sum investment of $100,000, reinvests all the dividends, makes no additional contributions or withdrawals over the next 30 years. Now, assuming a hypothetical 10% average annual return, that investment could grow to nearly 1.75 million by age 30.
Hmm.
So while returns are never guaranteed and actual results will vary, it's a powerful example of how compounding can reward long-term investors.
Yeah, compounding interest. And that's a striking
Mhm.
jump right
Yeah,
there.
oh my gosh, it really is.
Yeah.
And it makes the case for restraint pretty clear too. The hardest part usually isn't the math here, Tony. It's resisting the urge to touch the money while it's
Yeah.
growing.
Exactly. That takes discipline. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
But whatever the amount you're working with, a financial services professional can help you figure out which investment vehicles truly fit your goals.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this conversation. It's so important. What do you have for us next?
All right, now understanding the tax side of things and thinking about giving back where it makes sense. This is a big one because the IRS doesn't treat every kind of windfall the same way. And a lot of people are caught off guard when their check is smaller than expected after taxes. So, this is where having a tax professional on your financial team can be really important.
I'm sure it is. Break it down for us, though, a bit.
All right. So let's keep in mind I'm not a tax professional, Tony. All right. But things like severance pay, work bonuses, gambling winnings, and cash you happen to find or recover are typically taxed as income. And then tax laws are complex, and depending on your personal circumstances, you should consult a tax professional for guidance.
Okay. What falls on the other side of that line?
Let's say a cash gift usually isn't taxable to whoever receives it. An inheritance itself typically isn't either, though any earnings that inheritance produces afterward, interest, dividends, and rental income generally are taxed.
Yeah, but what about a life insurance payout?
Oh, so that one sits in more of a gray zone. The death benefit itself is usually untaxed, but
Right.
interest that accumulates on the payout or proceeds tied to a policy that was sold or transfers, well, that can be taxable.
Hmm. Are there other examples like that where it really depends on circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple that comes to my mind. First is the personal injury settlements. That's one.
Mhm.
Compensation for your physical injury is typically untaxed, but punitive damages, interest, and any portion tied to lost wages usually are taxed. Now, disability back pay works similar. Supplemental security income, so SSI benefits generally are not taxable, while Social Security disability insurance, SSDI benefits, may be taxable depending on the recipient's overall income. And then money received as part of a divorce property settlement also is generally not considered taxable income.
Mm. What about an everyday tax refund?
Typically not taxed with one wrinkle. If someone itemized the prior year and got a benefit from those deductions, a refund tied to that year could actually be taxable.
Wow. It's a lot to track when you get into the IRS rules and taxes.
Yes, it is. And that's exactly why this piece is worth handing to a tax professional and a financial service professional rather than guessing at it. And if a windfall does end up being taxable given to a cause you care about, that's one legitimate way to soften that bill.
Yeah, but how meaningful is that benefit really?
More than people think. Someone taking the standard deduction can still write off a cash gift to charity up to a set dollar amount depending on the filing status. And someone who itemizes can generally deduct cash donations up to a healthy share of that adjusted gross income. So, beyond the tax angle, it's a genuine chance to put money behind something that actually matters to you personally.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to wrap that piece up. What's the final point you have for us today?
Getting organized and then giving yourself permission to actually enjoy it. Whether the money came from an inheritance or, let's say, a settlement or a lucky streak at the tables, a short mental checklist helps. Check in with yourself emotionally first. Keep the news close to the vest. Sit on the big purchases for a while, knock out the costly debt, build up that safety net, bring in financial service professionals, get a handle on the tax side, and let your actual goals, not impulse, drive how the rest gets used.
Yeah, goals. Use it to achieve your long-term goals. So,
Yes.
once somebody's worked through all of that, what do you do?
Well, that's when it's worth pulling that wish list back out.
Yeah,
See what's
sure.
still worth buying and what would generally bring the most joy. It doesn't need anyone else's approval. As long as it's meaningful to you and the money's actually there for it, well, that's the green light to enjoy it.
All right. You've done a great recap. If somebody's expecting a windfall soon, then what's the one thing from our show today you'd want them to hold on to?
Well, slow it down. It can feel like a windfall demands an answer right away, but almost none of this actually has to happen on day one. Working through the emotional side, including privacy, debt, savings, and taxes, first tends to lead somewhere much better than acting on impulse will ever do.
Yeah, never act on the impulse. Take a beat, and let's bring that back around, Albert. You've said check in with your emotions first.
Yes.
Sit on the big purchases. Wait on those. Be selective about who you tell. Bring in a financial advisor like yourself. Get rid of that costly debt. Build up an emergency fund if you don't have one that's full yet, and then think long term with your investing. So I think and also that tax picture, obviously. And once all
Yes.
that's handled, get organized and enjoy it. I like that.
Yep. That's the list. It's not a bad list. And if there's one thread running through every point, it's patience. Okay.
Yes.
Handled thoughtfully, a windfall can generally change someone's financial path. Handled on impulse, well, it can just slip away.
Yeah. Well, that's a great note to end on today. It sounds like the biggest risk with a windfall is the money itself. It's not the money itself, actually.
Mm-mm.
It's how fast somebody moves with that, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
Slowing down costs nothing.
Yeah.
And it's often the one thing that separates a windfall that actually improves someone's life from one that just disappears.
All right. So, one more time before we go, let our listeners know how they can get a hold of you if they want to ask questions,
Yes.
get a second opinion, or get a financial plan in place.
Yes. Let's say, folks, if a windfall has recently come your way or you think one might be headed your direction, whether that's an inheritance, a bonus, a settlement, or something else entirely, please reach out to Kaizen Financial Incorporated at 586-752-7008 or visit us online at www.kaizenfinancialinc.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen. Remember, a conversation about your full financial picture can help make sure that money actually works as hard as it can for you so you can own your retirement, folks.
There you go. Thank you so much, Albert. And listeners and viewers, that does it for today's episode of Own Your Retirement with our host, Albert Lalonde.
Take care, everyone.